Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be going through some Dynasty IDP rookie sleepers that you just don't want to miss out on.
Hike!
In this episode, Joe and I are each going to provide 3 Dynasty IDP rookie sleepers that you must draft heading into your rookie drafts. Joe, who's your first guy?
Yeah, first guy I'm going to start off with here is going to be linebacker Danny Stutzman out of Oklahoma, who was picked in the 4th round by the New Orleans Saints. And, Steve, in our way too early, IDP mock draft, talking about these guys / rankings there. He's a guy that stood out to me after watching the tape. Really like Danny Stutzman. And I think this landing spot with the Saints is a good one. Demario Davis isn't getting any younger at 36 years old. Pete Warner is also there, but he's honestly been somewhat of a disappointment and just can't stay on the field, which honestly should help open the door for Stutzman to get some playing time his rookie season here. He's athletic enough to play sideline to sideline, also can hold up in coverage as well, but really just like his aggressiveness when he plays downhill in the run game and on blitzes. And then, guy's just a tackling machine and rarely misses tackles.
I think he was a guy in our early IDP rankings or early mock draft. You had identified him as a guy you were interested in from the get-go.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. If you didn't select him, I was going to. And the reason being is, like you said, Demario Davis isn't getting any younger. Guys like, 34, 35, I want to say he's up there.
36.
And 36, even more so. And then a guy like Pete Warner, who, like you said, major disappointment for the Saints. So to me, I'm not concerned about him being in his way. So besides that, who else is he going to deal with? So this is a new head coach. This is a new regime. Those other players weren't there prior to Kellen Moore and crew now coming over. So I like Stutzman a lot. I think for a late round linebacker, you could do a lot worse.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You definitely could do a lot worse than Stutzman for sure.
And honestly, you could argue that these late round linebacker flyers are even, this is more goes into strategy, but I don't even blame you if you say, I'm not going to spend a high pick on a linebacker. Look at guys who went. If you look at the first round, linebackers that have went in the first round, they've been quite disappointments. They just, they really haven't panned out. Guys like Isaiah Simmons, guys like, Quay Walker, I'm pretty sure he was a first round pick. He's really never materialized. So, there's a ton of other ones. I don't even remember. Can you name a couple off the top of your head? I'm pretty sure most of them have kind of been a flop.
Yeah, I think especially lately, most of them have been a flop. But, honestly, recently, none of them stand out to me anyways of like guys that like you would have taken early based off of their NFL draft capital, and you would have like benefited or been happy with their play thus far.
Jack Campbell, he's been a disappointment. Tremaine Edmonds back in the day, he never really materialized. So you've got guys like Roquan Smith. He's a once in a generation, it seems like at this point.
Yeah. That's the thing. He's one in a generation, but like, even looking at a guy like, Devin Lloyd had a lot of hype around him. They're not even picking up his 5th-year option in Jacksonville. Nope. So another kind of disappointment in the first round there.
Absolutely. So to not target those top linebackers and go for some of these other guys, I wouldn't blame you at all.
Yeah, I know that's kind of been our new strategy as we've been.
Well, you and I have gotten burned by so many times with linebackers. It's just like you and I have completely pivoted on that.
Yeah, now I'd rather, wait on it and take a flyer like Danny Stutzman and see what happens.
Yeah. All right, so my first player is going to be safety Kevin Winston Jr., who was drafted by the Tennessee Titans in the 3rd round. He played at Penn State, 6'1", 1.5, 215 pounds, ran a 4.50 Joe in the 40-yard dash time. Now, he did not play in 2024 due to a partially torn ACL. As a result, we really can only look at his 2023 stats, but he did quite well. He had 61 total tackles, an interception, and 5 pass deflections. Now, many scouts believe that had he not dealt with his injury and he was able to play the whole season this past year, we're talking about a guy to the caliber of Malachi Starks and Nicky Manwari. If you watch Winston, he's a heat-seeking missile. The guy, he anticipates where players are coming. I think he'll be more of a box safety. I think he can do both. But his closing speed and his ability to tackle is spectacular. So at the end of the day, if you look at the Titans depth chart, which is a part of what this is all about, can you get on the field? Well, Amani Hooker, He's got 1 year left on his contract. You got Xavier Woods. He's got 2 years, but the 1 year they could opt out, and he's 30 years old as it is. So this is, maybe they'll kind of ease him in as he continues. I mean, he should be, healthy at this point now, coming back from the ACL. But if they wanted to kind of baby him a little bit in the beginning, they certainly could. And I think going forward, I mean, this Titans defense honestly is kind of ravaged. I mean, the team as a whole, there's not a lot of talent. Not to mention that I'm not that really impressed by the linebackers either. I mean, we've got Cody Barton, Cedric Gray. These guys aren't guys I'm nervous about. So you could talk about Kevin Winston getting a ton of tackles, which would be huge. So I really like him a lot. Like I said, many scouts believe he could have been drafted way higher had he not been dealing with an injury.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. The Tennessee Titans are definitely ravaged, so he's going to have plenty of opportunities, especially if he is going to be that box player as well. As you mentioned, with playing alongside guys that are not the best linebackers as well. But I'd say definitely, like you mentioned, that closing speed and just his closing ability on the ball, to whether it's, knocking the ball down before the offensive player can get it or just the closing speed on chasing guys down. He really is that, aggressive downhill player.
Well, honestly, I could see the Titans picking again as the first pick overall next year. I mean, this team it might be the worst. I mean, it's really, really bad.
Yeah, it is bad. I guess it all depends on
Cam Ward.
We'll see how good Cam Ward is. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's going to depend on that, but you're not wrong. Like if he flops in the defense, I mean, like you said, the talent is just not the best there. And if they can't stand up, then they really could be just picking back at number one. I can't, most of the teams I feel like have improved and gotten better. Not to say that they haven't. They're just in such a rebuild phase that they have a lot of work to do even still.
A lot of work. So which is interesting because last season they made big splash signings in Calvin Ridley and L'Jarius Sneed, which is kind of a head scratcher now, but that's okay. We're not doing an overview of the Titans roster. So why don't you head over to your second Dynasty IDP rookie sleeper that they don't want to miss out on?
Yeah, my second guy is another guy that I really like, and it's going to be a defensive end, Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State, drafted in the 4th round by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sawyer just absolutely fits the Steelers to a T. He's that hardworking, blue collar type player. He's not the twitchiest or most athletic guy, but Steve, I like these guys. Plays with a relentless motor, wins with a power rush, plays the run very well, while at the same time he's increased his sack total in college every single year. Ended up with 9 sacks this past year, and then as I mentioned before, he's got an elite ability to play the run, which is going to provide him a nice tackle floor. And then, as we keep mentioning guys in the playing time, even though he is the 4th edge rusher for the Steelers on the depth chart, but they have guys like, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, who seem to miss time year after year with some sort of injuries, which could honestly open up the door for Sawyer to get some increased snaps in his rookie season here.
Yeah, I mean, you've been on Jack Sawyer for a while. He's your guy, and you're not wrong. You love your guys with a high motor. I mean, you and I kind of look differently when it comes to edge rushers.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in that, Porsche style, that the glitz and the glam, speed around the edge. Yeah. You just want that Toyota Corolla or Jeep Wrangler, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's the thing that's just going to keep humming along, and it's going to be reliable. So I'm going to the pure muscle car, which is kind of ironic because they're probably not the most muscly type players. They're more speed. But anyways, so you didn't mention Nick Herbig though, and to me, he's a guy who has looked really
guy ahead of him.
Yeah, and he's shown a lot of promise. I think he made a good point about Highsmith. He has missed a lot of time. Watt, on the other hand, has been pretty consistent as far as health goes. He has had a couple of things, I feel like, in the past few seasons. I just think playing time will be the biggest issue for Sawyer.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely is, especially initially, but we'll see what happens if they bring guys back like Highsmith and Herbig once their contracts are up. But initially his playing time, outside of injuries could be limited, but I think, overall, once he gets his chance, I think he'll be a solid IDP player.
All right, so for my second Dynasty IDP rookie sleeper, I'm going to go with linebacker Cody Simon of the Arizona Cardinals now. He was playing at the Ohio State Buckeyes, the national champions, that is, 6'2", 229, 4.59 in the 40-yard dash, Joe. Simon was a captain of the Buckeyes defense, and from what I can tell, Joe, he's a very cerebral player, and that's what gives me hope that he could possibly become a starter in Arizona. A lot of scouts think that he will more than likely be a special teams player out of the gate. A lot to do because he's got to really bulk up. I mean, he's tall, but he's 229, kind of small for that frame. Now, I think he could eventually get a shot, and there have been players, not necessarily in Arizona, but other players before him. Think about a guy like Zaire Franklin, right? He was a special teamer, I believe, former seventh-round pick that eventually rose to the ranks here. But Simon supposedly has a really strong character, and he brings a needed skill set where he can rush through the gap. He's got great pass rush skills, was an outside linebacker, converted to the inside. And good tackling skills. I would take a flyer on him. I mean, look, you look at the players ahead of him. These are not, guys I'm not nervous about. You got Mac Wilson, who is, well, what has he done? So, I think he was in New England and Cleveland. He's done very little. And then Akeem Davis-Gaither, interesting enough, a guy who has been a special teamer for the Cincinnati Bengals for the longest time, now gets a crack at the starting job for the Arizona Cardinals with a 2-year contract, but they can get out of it after 1 year. So I think Simon really has a possibility. Neither of these guys have proven that they can be a starting linebacker and do it well. So as a result, 4th-round capital for Cody Simon. I'm interested. I'm going to take the flyer.
Yeah, he's a guy I'd be interested in taking a flyer on as well. Just watching, the different Buckeyes games and catching him in the playoff. He definitely makes a lot of plays. Like you said, a reliable tackler. And, a lot of guys, at least if a guy is going to be a good special teamer, you at least know they're making the team and they're going to be around. I mean, he even saw, Zach Bond. He spent a lot of time being a special teams player. Then all of a sudden he gets his opportunity with the Philadelphia Eagles, and now he's like one of the coveted guys at linebacker and IDP that you're going to want on your team here. So not to say Cody Simon's going to, turn into that, but there definitely is opportunity, even though you're starting off on special teams. Eventually, when you get your shot, you just got to take advantage of it once you do.
That's another great example. I want to say Bond was a 3rd or 4th round pick out of University of Wisconsin, I want to say.
Yeah, definitely know he's out of Wisconsin. I don't know what round he was picked in, though.
Oh, let's see. Trivia time. Let's see who had it right. What do you think it is?
I think the 4th round sounds about right.
4th round sounds right. For those at home, what do you think? Drum roll, please. He was, boy, this is anticlimactic here. He was the 74th pick in the 2020 draft. So that's
sounds like a 3rd round, yeah.
Yeah. Third round pick. I knew it was something, and he did come out of Wisconsin, so we had that right, Joe. But Saints traded up to get him. But that's another great example. If you can play well on special teams, you have an opportunity eventually.
100%. And I know a lot of these young players and stuff and other veterans, you listen to them talk, and they're just hoping, NFL doesn't figure out a way to get rid of special teams, because it is that great opportunity for rookies to go in and show themselves and make their roster and separate themselves from other players, because not everyone is good at playing special teams and can play special teams.
So who is your final Dynasty IDP rookie sleeper, Joe?
Yeah, my final IDP rookie sleeper here is going to be defensive tackle Ty Robinson from Nebraska, drafted in the 4th round by the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, Steve, Howie Roseman does it again, just figures out how to get another good interior rusher here. Was honestly projected to be a 5th round pick, but they went ahead and picked him in the 4th round. But this guy's just an absolute bully in the inside. Once again, plays within a relentless motor, has a really good closing ability to finish sacks and tackles. And then what we like to see for the interior guys, he provides sack upside, as he did have 7 sacks last year. And I feel like, Eagles got another good rotational defensive tackle, even though they lost Milton Williams in free agency here.
Not a guy I'm that familiar with, and maybe for those who are tuning in as well, they aren't either. Hearing those 7 sacks, I would have thought that maybe he would have been taken sooner did you know why he slid as far as he did, or they felt he was worth a fifth round pick? Was his size or something, or
Yeah, people are a little concerned with his size and
undersized, or just a weird?
undersized, and when it comes to like double teams and playing going against offensive linemen in the NFL. But I think he works hard, like I said, and once he gets his hands on you, man, he's able to usually maneuver guys and really has an ability to like twist his body to get through the gaps and get through that offensive line. So definitely he's made a lot of plays for Nebraska last year, was third team all Big Ten as well.
Well, it sounds like they replaced their Milton Williams in the middle of
That's
that defense.
that's what I was getting at, man. Like, another guy to just fill in that rotation, lose Milton Williams, but here's Ty Robinson just to fit right in.
So frustrating. I wish, I mean, Ty Rosen's one of the better GMs out there, if not the best, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, what he's been able to do in like the Baltimore Ravens, their front office seems to do, like they always just seem to like grab these guys and turn out to be great players.
So for my final guy, this may be a surprise that I am talking about him, because you'd think, is he really a sleeper? I think he is, and that's going to be defensive tackle Kenneth Grant of the Miami Dolphins, out of your Michigan Wolverines, Joe, for college. Now, you might be saying he was the 13th pick in the draft. How could he possibly be a sleeper? Well, he's going to be a nose tackle, or that interior defensive tackle. And when we think about already D tackle, probably isn't the position on defense that you're seeing people pick high. You're maybe seeing edge rushers, linebackers, depending on your scoring. So, and then to boot, you've got him as like I said, he's primarily that nose tackle that, he's 6'4", 331 pounds, runs a 5.11 40-yard dash. But I think the landing spot for him is just fantastic. Christian Wilkins, left the Dolphins this past season. Before that, he had 65 total tackles. The season before that, he had an unbelievable year with 98 total tackles. Grant's going to have a tough sled to climb, as we mentioned, because the nose tackle position is really tough to be fantasy relevant. He's got to be a Dexter Lawrence type, but I think he has the chops to do it. He's got the pass rush moves. Even at his size, he's a plug-and-play run defender for the Dolphins, who I think they identified they desperately needed him. So, and you look at a guy, Joe, I mean, we talked about this. I know we just talked about him in a most recent episode where we talked about him as a winner, but you see his ability of chasing down a guy like Nick Singleton, who was taking a house call from Penn State. For him to be able to do that in that body size is just crazy. So even though he's a nose tackle, those type of players, even though a guy like Jordan Davis, who we were really excited about, based on everything that happened in the combine, even a guy too, the defensive tackle for the Titans, you could draft in the second round. There we go. Thank you. I knew you were going to get it. T'Vondre Sweat, another nose tackle guy that some people were excited. Those guys are tough to really determine what you want to do in IDP leagues. I think Grant is a guy I'm willing to bet on.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, when you said you were going to pick this guy as a sleeper, I was thinking exactly like you said. How is a guy taking that high in the first round potentially a sleeper? But I guess you're just relying on people passing on him, looking at him, as a nose tackle, and choosing a different defensive tackle that perhaps has more sack upside, or not going to be a nose tackle, more of a three technique type player.
Well, I think that's kind of the ironic part, right? It's where I think he could really fly under the radar because of his position. I think he'll get overlooked quite often, like I said, because of that nose tackle position. That's why I felt like, it was important enough to emphasize him, because I would be, I mean, it's hard to know. Every IDP scoring could be different, but I think he could get taken way late. I mean, we're talking about probably where these other guys we're talking about are going, kind of these, Winston and Stutzman, those guys. I could see those guys getting drafted ahead of Grant, even though Grant was taken 13th.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. I mean, there's, depending on your scoring, I know with our scoring, defensive tackles can be valuable, but that might not be for everybody. And we also, starting full 11, all 11 guys on defense as well. So if you're not in that deep of a league, maybe Grant probably is more of a sleeper in those type of leagues that aren't quite as deep as ours. But even as I mentioned on that, most recent episode that you also alluded to there, Steve, like Jim Harbaugh, Jesse Minter, Mike McDonald, these guys were thinking Grant has the ability and more upside to potentially be better than Mason Graham, who was taken earlier in the draft than him.
Well, and to boot, we have a 16-team league. So,
Right.
defensive tackles are quite valuable when you've got to start 2 of them. And now, again, disclaimer, our defensive scoring, it's pretty balanced. So, we see defense get taken a little bit higher. In our rookie draft, I want to say Devondre Sweat was a second-round pick, which I thought was a late second round, which I thought was a reach. I would have had him. I can't remember what particular. I think I might have him a 3rd or 4th-round pick because, like I said, just as a nose tackle, I thought he had a tough sled to climb. And right now it's looking that way. But, he's got to be Dexter Lawrence. That's the anomaly. I think he can do it. I think it's possible. But, time will tell.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think he has the potential to be a Dexter Lawrence type of player. Maybe one day Kenneth Grant can get himself a sweet nickname like Sexy Dexy.
Oh, there you go. So that does it for this episode. We went through 6 Dynasty IDP rookie sleepers that you don't want to miss out on. Hopefully, based on this episode, you've circled it with your pen or put it as notes in your phone so that you're prepared for when your rookie draft comes up. If you haven't done so already, we did the same thing, but for the offensive side of the ball. So we talked about 6 players, again, that you don't want to miss out on. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time.